Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's COVID Safe Legal Compliance webinar. My name is Nihal Samara. I'm the General Counsel and Legal Director here of the law firm Kaizen Synergy. I'd like to welcome you all to today's session. This is the third session of 5 that we are actually running. Today's session really focuses on the actions and activities that come out of your COVID safe plan. Of course, if it is something that your agency really needs to look at around what are the forms, what are the activities that we should get staff to actually do. So what are really some of the key things that need to go on to put your COVID safe plan into action? This is going to be quite a hands-on session. We're going to cover off some of the past information just briefly that we have run through. So things like the structure of the COVID safe plan and the likes. But we are going to jump into the forms. We are going to look at what is actually working for other agencies, looking at things like the GEMBA docs, looking at the policies section. We're going to look at some of the training resources as well too, but also some of the more basic things like ensuring that staff actually read documents and read policy requirements that they may need to get, especially in this age of emails and mobiles and all the likes. Sometimes people are just too busy to actually read things, and you need to be able to document this down that people have effectively read things that they need to as well too. And how do you actually sort of bring all this thing together as well in a really simple and easy way for staff? So what we're going to do is go through that in today's session, and also, as I've mentioned, show you what other agencies have done that is actually working since the start of this whole pandemic. So let's jump in. As always, we'd like to pay our respects to the elders past and present upon the lands on which we all meet. While this session is being run by webinar, we do pay our respects to the traditional owners accordingly. So today's plan, we're going to be looking at the plan itself, the policy requirements, some of the pandemic forms, and then looking into next week, what we are going to be focusing on is the surveillance and monitoring and pulling off these key reports and ensuring that your, I'm going to say, compliance side of it is being met for both the safety of your staff and also any clients that you deliver services to as well. As always, by attending this webinar, you will get a timely collection of resources. All of you by now will have access to your GEMBA 360 COVID dashboard as well too. And emails, repeat emails have also been sent out before today's session. As the law changes, we will also update information to each of your dashboards as well too. Especially, for example, in Victoria over the past few weeks now, there has also been changes almost every second day around certain areas, legislation that's changed, policy developments, etc. So it is a bit of a dynamic space that we're obviously all working in. What you will also see is some of the COVID safe systems and activities that other companies have been doing that is actually working. And that's the important part here. That is actually working during this pandemic. As people are trying to, I'm going to say, reinvent the wheel, looking at COVID safe plans, there are some government departments, certainly in Victoria, DHHS, Department of Health, has called for agencies to submit their COVID safe plans back to them if they've been remaining open. And they've been doing this across, we can see this across the sector. We also note in New South Wales, they've been doing the same thing as well too for some companies as well. So how do you actually ensure that not only are you doing what you need to do from your COVID safe plan, but what are the actions that are key actions that are helping agencies to manage these obligations as well too. And then we'll see some examples of what has worked and what continues to work with agencies as well. Of course, just a few housekeeping items as we go through. This session should only go for about an hour in length. I'm happy to field questions as we're going through if people are raising them as well. Equally, we will stay online all the way through to answer all the questions that people have raised as well. And any questions raised, we will obviously circulate those to you via our knowledge base as well too. So we will be covering all of those as well. The webinars and also the materials that we're also using today will be circulated back to you as well, and you can share these resources with your colleagues within your agency as you see fit. If you do have any questions, by all means, please contact me. We have our general phone number, but obviously even mobiles are now something that we're more than happy for you to contact people on, especially our staff as well too. Mine is listed here. Along with email address as well. So if you do have any questions around your COVID safe plans, or you're watching this at a later stage, by all means reach out to me directly on the mobile number listed or email address as well too. And happy to field COVID safe questions around the plans and activities that we're talking of today, or any other legal compliance questions that you might have around this. So just to recap, in the past few webinars, we have looked at the COVID safe plans. You can see that on your dashboard. With it, we've looked at the 3-step framework around it. This is the one that's come from the Commonwealth. Equally, it is divided up as we've covered through in the past webinars, step 1, step 2, step 3. I will add that states and territories have obviously updated their own COVID plans around it, and I'll come to that in a minute. Sometimes they're referred to these as stages rather than steps. I believe WA is using the term phases instead of steps or stages. Queensland, I believe, is using stages. New South Wales is using stages, and Victoria is using both stages and steps as well. So with it, we are taking the Commonwealth's document as part of the 3-step framework, and as part of that, then looked at the legislation or the laws across the Commonwealth, but also your relevant state and territory legislations, depending on where you are based. That is then flowed into the Commonwealth directives that we can see on the left-hand side. There are also policy checklists, work health and safety checklists, and also state and territory pandemic plans. Those obviously then come into what we call a self-assessment, some of which I'm going to go through today, and it flows into your COVID safe plan. Now, we have fielded some questions around, well, why don't we just use a COVID safe plan? Why do we need to actually really look at the self-assessments or engage staff and other people within our company to actually do anything? Why can't we just have a COVID safe plan? Is some of the questions that we have got asked since the last webinar. And quite simply, you can just have your COVID safe plan, and that's perfectly fine for agencies to do. And that's what the Commonwealth has said, all workplaces should have a COVID safe plan. However, what we have seen is that in order to get traction, in order to ensure that your staff are kept safe, that your services delivered are appropriate, what are the activities and actions that need to come out of this in order for you to ensure that your staff are safe and that you're delivering appropriate services? And this is what we're going to talk about today. So generally, the COVID safe plan is, I'm going to say, your reference document that you have. And now what we're going to look at is how to actually do this as well. And of course, as part of this, there are directions that have come out of the Commonwealth that we'll refer to as well. So things like, what should employers do to reduce the risk of COVID-19? And this was something that the Commonwealth put up some time ago. And there were about 14 of these particular items that we can see. And I'll just go back. Here it is here. Some of those are quite simple around maintaining social distancing, ensuring that there is 4 square meters of space per person within the offices, but also looking at some of these include employers should have policies, procedures, and technology to support employees working from home. So there are a whole list of these items, and some of the works that have been done over the past few months is, well, how do we actually do this? How do we discourage carpooling between employees to and from work? Or how do we ensure that we have procedures or policies in place? What does that actually look like? Equally, if we are providing training to staff or educating them on hand hygiene, and I've got a new policy, how do I know that staff have actually read it? They can say that they've read it, but looking back, let's say over the next few months, if I wanted to just go back and check, oh my goodness, has a staff member read this? Do I do that via email? Does that something that stands up if Safe Work come in or regulators come in or Department of Health, say, well, have they done it? Do I sort of say hand on heart, yes, I believe these people have done it, but what's the documentation that we have? So we're going to go through some of these as well too today. So what we are looking at really is the left-hand side of this section here that you can see on your slides. And with it, some of these include looking at the Safe Work Australia documents and guidelines, and having the checks and balances in place to say that you've actually done what you've done. And effectively, this then meets your COVID safe plan actions. Now, in saying that, one of the areas I will point out is that this additional work needs to be managed. So that way you're not spending all your time just doing this. So the areas that I'm showing you today is really the key areas that you should be looking at, and that we've found that actually works for other agencies. So we're conscious of the fact of you could, do a whole range of activities and actions within your agency that all you do is this and not actually deliver services. What we want to do is get that balance right so that you can say, right, yes, I've got my plan in place. Yes, staff might do things that only take a few seconds out of the day to actually complete. And this will give me my compliance obligations that are met to make sure that we are doing what we need to do. And this will guide you through that process as well to make it as simple and as easy as possible. So I will be showing you your Gemba dashboard and working through some of your forms and areas as well too, and where to find things and how to also upload users into it as well too, so you can start to roll this out this week as well. And we'll go through some of the reporting items on this next week and the surveillance items. And when I say surveillance, it is really around the disease control side of surveillance, not IT surveillance, to make sure that staff are kept safe and services are being delivered. 2 agencies we have been focusing on at the moment that have given us permission to share their dashboards and also some of the learnings that have come out of this. One being Rumbalara Aboriginal Cooperative, and I'd like to thank Laurie Seville, the Chief Operating Officer, on this, who's agreed to allow us to share resources and the dashboard of what they do. And also Women's Housing Limited, and a special thanks to Judy Line, the Chief Executive Officer there, who has also agreed for us to just share the dashboard and some of the works that they have done as well. So just before I jump into the dashboard, similar to what yourselves see, is that on your dashboard, you will see your plan, which is in the disaster module, which is right in the middle of the screen there. We will be looking at the policy section, and you've got policy templates ready to use for your agency, covering off some of the key COVID safe plan areas. You also have the staff training, which you can access as well too, and also the pandemic forms on the left-hand side as well, and the HR register for staff to use to update their contact information on. We will be looking at the 5s and 6s around the risk registers. I'll just show you briefly today where we're looking at, but that will form some of the reporting and monitoring side that we're going to be looking at next week. Equally, I will just show you how to add staff into your dashboard, so that way you can give other people access to the system if you like as well. So that's sort of the layout of it. Now, this is something that Rumballara have been using since really the start of the pandemic, and it's grown. Rumballara is a unique agency. They provide a broad range of health and well-being services right across to justice and outreach work and housing support services as well too. They have some 200 to 300 plus staff, work from multiple sites. Because of their location, they've gone through a lockdown phase as well too. So they've had to move staff and have them work from home. And you can imagine having that volume of staff as well too, and effectively keeping support to those staff as well too. So they've had a range of policies that they've also implemented as part of that. And they've also had staff complete what we call a COVID safe assessment form each day. In the last few months, they've uploaded some 6,000 documents onto their Gemba system. And also because of the staff, they've well past now about 10 to 11,000 individual COVID safe staff assessments that they get done as part of this. So you can see one of the things that they've done is really heavily looked at the COVID safe staff assessments, which I will show you shortly. And this is really designed to help them monitor and alert how many people may have symptoms and the likes. And it's an active register where their line managers effectively see what's going on as well too. And you can really see the traction that they've got around this. Equally, they also provide for yourselves, just interesting to note here, an aged care or elders facility service. So they are in a very, very high risk, vulnerable space where the Commonwealth have identified people who are 60 plus or aged in that sort of age group, plus also Aboriginal descendants as well too, people who work in aged care and elders facility. So you can actually see they cover off a range of vulnerable groups within that space as well. So they've been able to manage this whole process right across their pandemic, where it is a ramping up into lockdown phases, stage 4s, and then as things are now gradually opening up again, they're into that phase of opening it up, and they're able to do that utilizing this platform. With it, again, we will come back to this sheet, as I've mentioned, around the COVID assessments and the working from homes and the workstations, and all of these forms are available for yourselves to actually use. Equally, on the other side, we've got an agency, Women's Housing, and I just recognise Judy Line, the CEO there, and also I'll say a bit of a shout out to Lena Tompkinson as well too, who's the executive assistant around her works that she's done with the disaster side as well. And in the same way, they've got their disaster plans, they've got their policies, they've got already rolling out staff training to inform staff, but also they're actively utilizing the notice board to actually send messages out. And I'll show you how this works. But in much the same way, they run exactly the same side. So it doesn't matter the differences in the size of your company or agency. What matters is how you're actually implementing the activities to make sure that you're meeting your COVID safe plan obligations. Interestingly, last week, this agency was contacted by the Department of Health and Human Services to submit their COVID safe plan, and they were able to literally do that within about a day in terms of what they did. And they simply printed it out, updated the form that the department sent and sent it back. But it was easy to do because of the previous works that they had done around it. So it works in exactly the same way. And this is essentially what stage we want to get all of yourselves up to. We have loaded in some 2,000 plus agencies just within the last few weeks alone. all of which have been actively jumping in now to the Gemba platform. So you would have got these login details here, and with it, when you get access, you can simply go to gemba360.com. You have your username and your password that has been sent out. And when you log in, effectively, you will see this screen here. And I will make this screen slightly bigger. So one thing I will say straight up is that you cannot crash, break, or destroy this system in any way. So by all means, click away. You cannot crash, break, or destroy this system in any way. If you are watching this recording afterwards and you haven't got your Gemba 360 login, then by all means, please email us. Our contact details are at the end of this webinar, or give us a call directly on the mobile and we can set this up for you. So let's have a look. You can effectively see your disaster system here. You've got your HR system loaded in here. You've got your risk, the training area, and the Gemba docs for you as well too. You've also got your pandemic forms along the left-hand side of this screen, and I'm just moving this for yourselves to see. And again, you can access those. So let's have a look just to walk through at some of the resources that are available to you. And looking at some of the actions and activities that you should be looking at to complete as part of this. So firstly, to look at the Gemba docs, if I click on this, what comes up is this screen here. And you can see that it opens into and I'll just detach it here, a separate browser tab window. And this really allows you to open this up and see this. And I can effectively drag this across and open that up as well too. So if I go back to here, I can simply click on the Gemba docs and it allows you to do that. Now, first of all, if I wanted to search for a policy document, with it, I can simply type the word policy in the top right-hand corner here and click on search. What comes up is this screen here. And we have loaded in a series of template policies that you can use. So this includes some of the most important ones. So for example, we've got the policy of work health policy, and these align directly to your directions that the Commonwealth actually set. Some of these include the policies also on your overarching business policy, and you simply click the download button here on the left-hand side. And if I open that up, what you can see is your template policies for you to use. And I'll just drag this into your screen here. It is just opens up, and with it, you can then go through and effectively insert and replace your agency names. So for example, the work health and safety policy covers off the key pandemic areas. It covers off the legal responsibility that your agency has, covers things like employees' responsibilities, controlling risks and each of the key requirements, any workplace infection control that Safe Work wanted you to have a look at, and also things like general food preparations and also respiratory hygiene, etc. And we've also referenced the appropriate guidelines for prevention and control of infection in healthcare settings as well too. So you have these policy templates available to you. And if I just close that down, you can see it here. Now with it, the other parts that we have mentioned here is that you'll see a number of other folders that we've listed here. So with it, if you wanted to, you can upload your own policies and procedures from your own agency and use that here. You would have might have used something similar like Dropbox or the likes. A lot of agencies are moving off it for security reasons, and you can load those in. Other agencies also use this for things like their board of management reports and agendas, and also contracts registers, which we'll look at next week as well too. So you can also use this for your contract registers and reporting as well. Now, one of the questions that people ask us around this is, how can I add, I've got other people within my company that I want to add in to this dashboard. And you can do that by simply going to this section here in the top right-hand corner. And this is going to become useful when you want to circulate or give them access to these resources, or you want to actually make sure that they're reading a new policy and are doing the actions that you need them to do as well. And you can do that by simply going to the menu bar and clicking on user management. Now you can actually click on simply, I'll just show you first, adding a new user. And you can do that by one-to-one if you just wanted to add somebody in. The easiest way, though, I find to do it is to simply go to the user management area. The user management area, and I'll just do that again for you, effectively go to the menu bar and go to user management. So effectively what this allows you to do is add a new user directly from here, or if you want, you can actually upload a whole bunch of people or group of people all in one go. And we have set up a template ready for you to use. So you can just download this template. It'll come up as an Excel document and it'll ask you for the person's details like user details. And many of you would have done this before. Here it is here. We've given you username, which is generally the people's email address. You can set the password, enter in their first name, last name, email address, what the position is. And two important parts here, are they active? So yes, they are. And also with it, do you want the system to automatically send out a welcome email? And if you put yes here, then it will automatically do that when you upload it as well too. You can also change, and we've just had a question is, can we change the email address we use to log in and update the password? Absolutely, you can. So with it, you can actually do that by simply going to the menu bar here and clicking on My Profile, which is the profile you've logged in, and you can update this information yourself. This is your profile to effectively use. And we've kept it very much like a social media space where you can do that. So you can actually change your profile. You can update your photo. You can update your banner. You can update your logo. You can update all of that information directly from the menu bar in the top right-hand corner. So really, to update and add people from your company into this, simply go to the user management section and click on upload users and follow the easy to use prompts there. And that will upload, and you can upload the whole bunch of staff into this system as well. Now, let's start to have a look. Once you've got your users in there, what you can do is this, and this is where the real big strength and power of running your COVID safe plan comes into place. So let's say we've uploaded a whole list of our staff from here. Now, I've got a policy that I want all the staff to read. And it's a new, let's say it's a new COVID safe policy. I can essentially go to the notice board item and click on, oops, I'll just bring this up. I can go to notice board and click on notice board here. And what I'm going to do is simply say, and this is just an example of one here. And what I'm going to do is say, right, new policy to read. And I'm just going to type a message and say, hey, everyone, please see, and I'm doing this live for you as well too, please see and read our new work health and safety policy. What I'm going to do is I can either go and link it to a GembaDocs file, or I can actually choose a file directly from my computer to actually look at. And I'm just going to go to here. Here it is here. I'm going to select a policy and I'm going to post this notice. Now, some people say, well, why wouldn't we do this by email instead of using this notice board? Well, one thing that you can do around this is quite simply this. One of the challenges that people have is to say, right, actually, we need staff to actually confirm that they've actually read an email. And often when we have it, people will simply say, oh, look, we have a policy that we need them to read, and people say, oh, no, we never got it. I never read it. How do we actually see it? Where's it going? All this stuff effectively comes up. And this is exactly what we see out of this system. And that's the issue that so many agencies actually have. Now, with it, let me show you what this looks like. So first of all, what happens is this. Essentially, after I've just posted that message, this email or similar email gets sent out. It says, hello, please read this new policy to read, and it's under your Gemba notice board. And people can actually click on this message and it'll take them to your dashboard, okay? Once they do that, they go in. They're asked to effectively open this policy document that they've read. And once they do that, it'll click on confirm that they've actually read it. Now you can see here that it's automatically changed the date. So it says who's actually read it and the date and the time that they've actually read it. What this means for you is that nobody can ever turn around to you and say, oh, sorry, yeah, I saw the email, but I never read it. I never saw it, all this. And we've heard these excuses before in the past. For COVID-19, this is incredibly important that people actually do read things that are posted to them. And so what it means is that you can actually go back and say, if anyone says to you, oh, I never saw it, I never read it, you can actually go back and go, well, no, guys, look, you actually read it on this date and at this time. And so you did know what was actually going on. For safe work, and if the department call you and say, well, show me that staff are aware of it, or the Commonwealth calls, then you've got this information here at hand to say, right, I know that people have actually read it. Now, what you will see is that once I've read it, it automatically disappears. But I can go to this button here, the notice register, and actually look at all the past. It's like a red notice box here. So effectively, you can actually see all of that there, which is great. So anytime that you want to send something out, you can do it as a group, you can send it to all staff, and people have direct access to it directly off this system here. Equally, what we could do also now is, let's say we now want people to actually go through, and I'll actually show you the COVID safe form, and actually say COVID safe form. And now I'm just going to say is, hi everyone, we are looking at the COVID safe form. Please complete this. And I'm just going to say each day, okay? Now I'm going to show you what the COVID safe form is. And I've sent this out, okay. So on the left-hand side, you've effectively got your COVID safe form. And this is an assessment form that is here. What happens here is that what we have set up, we've taken the specific Department of Health or relevant Department of Health information. We've looked at the Commonwealth guidelines, which we've covered off in the past sessions, of looking at what are the key symptoms that people and the departments are looking at as part of their general assessment. So what we find is that there are a number of areas. This includes certain temperatures, shortness of breath, whether people have a cough, a sore throat, whether they have increased tiredness, body aches and pains, whether they've lost their taste or smell, and also have they come into close contact with anybody else as well. Now, as part of this, there is also a series of hotspot zones that were identified. So somebody logging in, first of all, what they see is I'm just logged in as this user, and my name comes up as well as the date and the time automatically. Now, if you're based in WA or the likes, well, your timestamp will automatically come up as well. People can go through and answer these questions quite simply. And within it, what it does do is automatically send you a notification. And I'm just going to say answered no to all of the above. And effectively what happens here is that when we save it, a notification comes up. And here it is here on the register. So I can actually go in and let's say I'm the manager here and actually see how they actually tracked, what's the date and the time that they've actually run it. And this is actually what Rumbalara Aboriginal Cooperative actually uses. They do this on a literally on a daily basis. The line manager then goes through and reviews it to make sure that if there is anything that comes out here, they've also then put in, let's say, the date stamp as well too of when they've actually checked it. And here in Victoria, it's just on 11:35, and they've then marked it as completed, that they've done it, and saved the form. Now, what this does is then gives you the audit trail of what's of all staff and whether they've actually displayed any symptoms at all. Staff effectively, by doing this, it's put them on the front foot of going, right, these are the things that we now need to consider as well. Now, I mentioned that Rumbalara Aboriginal Cooperative does this for all staff on a daily basis. In comparison, Women's Housing Limited actually does this and asks staff to complete this on a weekly basis if they're working from home but don't have contact with clients. The only exception to that was when they've changed, and if staff are going out to see clients or doing outreach work in women's housing sense, they've got about 30, 40 staff or so. And so it is a different size agency, but even different sizes, what they've still got staff to do is log in each day and actually complete this. There is another agency, which is a migrant resource centre as well too, that also uses a similar COVID daily assessment form, and that's specific to them as well. But what they've done is actually do it specifically for staff that are actually going out each day, whereas other staff are only doing it once a week as part of this process. So you can see by doing this, it actually gives you the ability to monitor and get staff involved in actually assessing whether they're actually safe to deliver services to your clients or even safe to come into the office. Now, keep in mind that you can actually access Gemba via any mobile device as well too. And agencies have actually been using this to actually, even before they come in, they're actually accessing this directly off their mobile device and completing this assessment form. So it actually gives you the ability to actually do this via the desktop or even mobile as well. But the good thing is, by doing this one form, it means that managers are able to assess it. And it doesn't matter how big or small your agency is. By doing this, effectively gives the staff start to give them control over, well, hang on, we need to participate in ensuring that services delivered are safe as well. And it's a really simple form to actually use. Equally, what we also have on here is your HR profile. And again, by clicking on this, what comes up is this section here. Now we have clicked on, and I'll just bring this section up, the My Info section. Now, what the My Info section does is effectively allow staff to update their contact information details, as well as, and I'll just go back to the main dashboard, as well as their emergency information details and the likes, and it really gives them the ability to update their own profiles as well. And you can imagine, especially for staff that are now maybe working remotely, working from home, all these types of measures are in place to have that directory information available to you. And if they need to update information, it can be done then and there as well. And it really gives you the ability to simply go to the HR space and bring this information up very, very quickly for them too. The other section that I will just mention to you is also the working from home forms. And when we've done these, and if I click on the working from home section, again, one of the requirements coming out of the Commonwealth is to ensure that staff working from home have the resources and tools available. But one of the questions that agencies and companies then raised was, Well, how do we know what staff are actually doing and manage, what work plans that staff effectively have? This allows you to do that. So let's go through and actually have a look at this. And again, from a safe work point of view, it covers the workplace arrangements, it covers the key questions that they need to look at, and also some of the task lists that they also need to complete. So projects, what their start times are, end times, total times that they've completed on it. And it gives you kind of a worksheet to actually work through. Now, one of the things that I will just mention around this is that with each of these forms that you use, and it works in exactly the same way, once they are completed, and I'll just go back to this form here, you will find that a bunch of folders keep popping up, and this includes these sections here. And if I just look at this, for example, that there are folders that appear, and what we call them is evidence folders. So it allows people to actually load documents back into the system for you as well. So if I wanted to actually load something in, it might be anything from a doctor's certificate to a worksheet that I'm working on. I can actually choose a file. Let's say I wanted the policy document that I'm just looking at here, and I'm going to load this in. And here it is here. And it's given the date and the time that I've actually done it, and we'll send out notifications as well. So you can start to see that all of this information that you can use builds up the profiles that staff can actually utilize around this too. And essentially what you've got then is all of this information across it. Now, it all links back to the HR space. So when I click on the HR module, and now I've brought this up, I can then go back and update any of my personal details, contact details as well too. And I can do that by simply clicking on contact details and click on edit. Most of you can actually look at this as well too. And if I wanted to, let's say I wanted to update my details, here it is here. And I'll just bring this up, delete those. Okay, I've got these details here, which I'm just going to add in. Here's our details here. And I can simply click on save. And that's done. So you can actually do that by simply clicking on the HR button and going to My Info. What happens is that as staff are updating this, you've then got actions and information directly from your directory and dashboard as well. And you can view all this information across it. Obviously, for privacy reasons as well, you can then select who you want to see within it as well. So with it, we've been asked, is the working from home with a start, finish time, a task, a COVID requirement? And that's a good question. So it's not directly a COVID requirement for staff to have, and I'll say it's not directly a COVID requirement to have the start and finish times for a COVID requirement. But what we have put it in is to identify from a work health and safety point of view, what are the start and end times that people within your company are effectively working for you and listed in it. So again, what we've got here around this is things like also under safe work, which we covered off previously in the disaster module as well. Things like the specific work health and safety assessments that you needed to also have a look at. So within it, and I'll just jump to this as well, in your COVID Safe dashboard, once you click on the disaster side, you can go to projects, for example. We look at the COVID Safe plan, step 1. And if I go to documents, then in the past, what we have shown you is the Safe Work Compliance Checklist, which was a PDF document and has taken this across it. And you've got this checklist that is open to this across the checklist that you need to use. The problem with obviously this checklist, the COVID Safe checklist that Safe Workers had, is that it's a PDF document. You need to print it out. You need to then keep it and then store it again. Now, what we have done to make it easier, and this is where the actions and activities come in, agencies we've loaded in the safe work. What can I do to keep my workers safe document? And you can see that here. And essentially what you've got then is the live form. The live form then has the working from home side, what key requirements Safe Work want you to work through. It's got the yes or no fields as well as part of this. So if I just put in around this the details, I can mark that when it's been done. I can effectively go through and I'll just mark in, for example, completed as part of this. And I'll just go through just because we are just working through the timelines around this as well too for this webinar. And I'll just mark that this has been done. Now, if I click on save, for example, what you'll see is that it returns here. The great thing about this is that if I wanted to add it, or let's say I get investigated by Safe Work at a later stage, I can go back into this and actually show through my audit logs who's done what and when, any changes that's occurred. So there may well be, as part of your Safe Work assessment, that you really want to have a look at this and actually go back and change things as part of your assessment. Or you might do your Safe Work assessments once a week as part of this. Well, then now you can, and you've got your audit trails around this. So with it, there is, and we've just been asked by one of the agencies, just to clarify, if you're going through and you want to add other staff to this, is this covered? Can we have 10 staff listed and one admin? Is there a cost around it? To add, obviously, which we've said a few times throughout the webinars as well too, and consistently, we have opened this up for agencies to utilize their one admin or one seat around this, which gives you access right across it. Obviously, if you are adding more staff across it, then there is a small licensing fee that is charged across that, but we have done it on blocks of users, so that way it's not just based on one or two people or the likes, but it can be done across that as well too, and that way it is very, very transparent around it, and it makes it easier for you to do. And I refer you to the cheat sheet that we also sent around as well too. It divides it up into small, medium, and larger agencies as well, and gives you that process as well too. And we'll certainly, as always, send those around again for agencies. What this gives you as part of this process, which we will be looking at moving forwards around this, is also things like the risk assessments, which we will be looking at next week, which is around the incident notifications, actually completing the risk forms. By all means, have a look at the specific risk areas. You can play around with this as well too, if you like. And it's got the assessment process, which allows you to actually manage incidents across your organizations or company. This doesn't matter how big or small your agency is. We've had agencies in the past where Safe Work has actually awarded, given them awards around the systems that they've put in, and it allows you to manage your incidents, hazards, or near misses as well. It gives you all of the audit logs across it. Now, with it, to run through and join all these dots together, we've had a look at the HR space. We've had a look at the policy templates. We've had a look at the forms that are here along the left-hand side. So with it, let's join these dots together around some of these items as well. One of the last things I will just mention that somebody's just mentioned is around the college area. And you can look at some of the e-learning sections. And this is where we are loading in all the past COVID webinars, and you'll see these here. And one of these is around the COVID Safe Legal webinars, and also any other, we've had, for example, legal updates around recent victims of crimes area, which is outside the scope of this webinar. And you can actually go in and have a look at these past webinars as well too, which is all there. So let's actually join some of these dots together. So after you've, and I'll just move through this very quickly to recap. So with it, if you wanted to load in your staff, you can do that under the user management section. You can simply go to menu and upload users and follow the prompts there. And you literally, we've had agencies that have uploaded hundreds of people into it. And it's the easiest space to do that in. You can simply upload it. If you click on yes, it'll then automatically send out the welcome emails to everybody. From there, you can then post the notices. And let's say I want to go first of all and say COVID safe assessment form. Okay, this is the first one. And I'm going to say, hello, everyone. Please complete your COVID assessment form. And I'm going to say each day. Okay, so with it, that's the first one. I can send that out. And what that does is that automatically posts it on this notice board here as well too. You can see that, and the type of email that will then be sent around to everybody effectively comes up as part of a notification by email as well too. And again, I've just literally posted that out. And if I show you, this is an example of the notice board email that goes out. I've just sent it out. It says COVID safe assessment form. The staff that I've listed can literally click here and it'll take them directly into the dashboard. So with it, they can then go through. I then want staff to also have a look at the Gemba Docs area. And if I wanted to, I can use the templates that I'm having here. You can then also change any of these templates, reload them back into the system as well. And staff then have access to all of the key policy templates that you can then use. Now, by doing this, you're meeting your Commonwealth and state directives as well too. We've covered off some of the work, health and safety obligations for your agency to cover as well. So it gives you some of the core areas. If you wanted to, and we've just got a question there saying, can I also load in other policies that I want as well too? Absolutely, you can. So if I go into the policy and procedures register here, I can create my own folders. You can create any folder names that you have for within your agency, and you can upload your entire policies register for staff to use as well. Also, if I wanted staff to update, let's say their HR space, again, what I could do is post a notice to staff. People can then go directly into their HR space. They can look at their info. They can update their photo if they like as well too, and also update their contact and emergency details as well. So it gives them a full HR space to also do. We've just had a question from agencies saying, can we use this for things like working with children and police checks or blue card checks as well? Absolutely, you can. So you can actually have staff upload their other details, police checks, working with children checks, work experience registers, training registers, if they're registered trainers or they're registered with AHPRA under medical services or health services, they can also list their qualifications, and it will then automatically send them emails. And you can also, and part of next week, we will be looking at some of the reporting registers that you can see here. And we can literally run entire HR reports right across this whole system very, very quickly to see who's done the checks, who's got outstanding requirements that we need to jump on. Equally, you've then also got your COVID daily assessment forms, which we've just covered off here, which we've said these are daily forms around that. You may want to do it around specific weeks or other timelines, which you have the flexibility on as well. So with it, certainly one of the questions that has come out around this is just a question on what is the privacy and security like on this system, and how does that work as well too for agencies. With it, there is essentially all of this is run directly out of Australia. We have a IT security white paper that we do make available to agencies that are interested in seeing it as well too. And I will just bring this up for you to actually have a look at as well too. And you can, and we will actually circulate this around to you for you to actually have a look at as well. It covers off all of the details of the security white paper itself, and also shows you exactly what you need to look at as well. It is a public document quite openly that we have made available. All of the privacy requirements are met around it. It is given to a specific login as well too, and it is only open to your agency to access. So in the case of yourselves, you and your staff can view it only. Notifications go back to yourselves as admins. If you wanted to add more admins to that profile, you can do that as well. So that certainly is there. And we will circulate that IT white paper out for you to have a look at as a reference document as well. Equally, what we also have here is the safe work forms and the workstation assessment forms for you to use. These forms, going back to our presentation, our main presentation slide, actually gives you the specific pandemic forms, and this will lead directly into the monitoring that we will be going through next week. Equally, the policies are in line with industry plans, Commonwealth and state guidelines, and key regulatory requirements. What we are suggesting is that you go, as part of these recommendations, that you do review this as part of your COVID safe plan implementations. And also, as I mentioned, what we will be looking at next week is surveillance and monitoring of this, which will really build your capacity. I'm going to say the good thing about this is that we are leveraging off work that other agencies, exactly like yourselves, in the not-for-profit sector have already completed, and we have seen that this works for them. At this stage, we will open up the phone lines to answer any questions that you might have. Just while we are doing that, a reminder, if you do have any questions after today's session, by all means, please contact us on 1300 360 360. You can reach out to me via my mobile number, which is also listed in these slides, or email us at support@gemba360.com.